Incentives and grants, the solar system paid for itself in just 9 months, and energy bills dropped to as low as $15 a month. Fast, affordable, and future ready, Harvest Solar delivers real results. Visit harvestsolar.com and discover what solar can do for your bottom line.
News time is 8 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded local newscast. Brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and brought to you by Connexus, providing fiber internet to Clinton. Learn more at DeWittDailyNews.com. A lack of housing is hurting local communities, and DeWitt County's economic development leader is hoping DeWitt County can tap into a market that is going unmet in many places. On the WHOW Morning Show Monday, Kurt Homan, executive director of the DeWitt County Development Council, told Regional Radio there is a demand for housing in DeWitt County for a market that cannot keep up.
You know, I always go back to a pretty important statistic. It wasn't all that long ago that the average household size was about a little over 4 people per household. That number is down to a little over 2. So we lost about 2 people per household. So, you know, on a community-wide basis, if you look at that, if you haven't doubled the number of housing units in your community, your population has decreased. And so it's incredibly important that we keep on the horizon with new homes and new home alternatives. So, So you know, other communities in the county as well, their population has declined, even though the number of houses in those communities have increased. They just haven't increased enough. So because less people are living in a house than they did 30, 40 years ago. So, you know, housing is a long-term plan, a long-term prospect, a long-term venture. So we need to always focus on new housing. Well, it's decreasing because there isn't anywhere to live. So we're fortunate on our DCDC board. You know, we have a realtor, and I'm always talking to realtors in the area. And they're telling me, of course, they don't have enough houses to sell. They don't have enough houses to meet the demand of the people that would like to buy housing. And it's not unique to DeWitt County. I mean, this is going on all over the nation. There's a shortage of housing.
For the 2 biggest communities in DeWitt County, Clinton and Farmer City, Homan says there should be 2 objectives. One is to restore properties where blighted homes have been raised, and also the development of new subdivisions.
And so we'd like to see people, you know, there's a couple of objectives. You know, if I know Clinton and Farmer City both have had a focus on cleaning up the community and blighted homes that maybe have been abandoned to take care of those properties. Well, ideally, you know, you don't just want an empty lot once those have been torn down. You would like to see people put different homes back in those spots. So you want to kind of fill in the town, but the real progress comes with, you know, new subdivisions, and those become a much bigger task, and also a much costlier task. But there's certainly ways to address those areas, but those are what we need. And to me, I would point to, we need mixed use housing. So that's single family homes, apartment buildings, duplexes, senior housing, all of the above makes for a very vibrant community for sure.
Costs are largely what prevent communities from pursuing housing developments, but Homan indicates there are ways to recoup those costs and improve a community's housing market.
It's incredibly expensive to develop a new subdivision. Okay, before we even get to the individual homeowner or the builder aspect. So, you know, there are ways, you know, the city, as an example, if they had to do all the infrastructure, the streets, the sewer, the water lines, I mean, that's several millions of dollars to get that done. So, you know, there's programs such as the TIF district. Most of the successful communities in the area will implement TIF districts, so they can get reimbursed for those costs that they've had to spend. So it starts there. I mean, there has to be a place to get that done, and then ultimately, you know, it's, you know, from the individual home owner, you know, the person, typically people are upgrading a home. So, if the new home is $350,000, they may be leaving a $175,000 house.
Right.
Well, there's a different market. There's a different market for that individual.
Yeah,
So as
yeah.
they trade and move out of homes, that there's a house becomes available that makes sense for another.
According to Homan, there are avenues to begin housing development, and that is for a developer to take up the development of a portion of a community, and then for a TIF district to be set up for the community to recoup its costs.
Well, first of all, we need developers that are willing to take on the task. So if we can sit down with the developer, from a city level, from a economic development level, from a county level, we'll work out details to make that make sense. We'll help find land. Potentially, they would acquire the ground. They typically front some of the infrastructure cost. Then a TIF really needs to be developed because the city needs to recoup several $1 million of development costs that they'll have with water, sewer, street. The developer can sell these lots, so they can recoup their money along the way. They'll get reimbursed, of course, some of the costs from their input of the utilities or infrastructure work. But you really just need someone that's experienced, willing to take that chance and move forward. So we look at it, that developer in comparison to, say, a developer in Bloomington, Normal, Illinois, where, a house there or a lot there may sell instantly. There may be a little more holding cost in DeWitt County, but all in all, we think it can make sense for everybody.
Homan is working to find developers who would be interested in coming to Clinton. He feels there are a few areas in DeWitt County ripe for developments, mostly areas that are just outside of the limits of a city. News time, 14 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Tuesday. The city of Lincoln has big plans for the future of its new tourism department. Lincoln Mayor Tracy Welch explains, since their departure from the Logan County Tourism Department, the city has been donated a Route 66 exhibit that should be open to the public next spring. It reflects the new Route 66 focused direction the city wants to take with its tourism department.
The big thing we're working on to kick it off is the best way to describe it is it's a Route 66 train exhibit that it's immersive. It'll give you the experience of traveling Route 66 in one location across all 8 states. There's statues and neon signs and replicas of a lot of the things you would see on Route 66. And we actually had that exhibit donated to us from a gentleman in Chicago, and we had to have a place to put it. So we had a really big bank building down here that's been sitting empty for a few years. It's the old State Bank building on Broadway Street, and the city council agreed that we could use hotel motel money, purchase that building, and we're going to use it for tourism. Part of that building is going to be used for economic development initiatives. We're trying to create an incubator for businesses to have a place to come get all the information they need, startups, things like that. So a lot going on.
Scott McCoy is the former mayor of Pontiac and has brought in to help breathe a new life into Lincoln's tourism. Mayor Welch cannot share much, but says McCoy has already been coming up with big ideas.
Well, I think we're already starting to see some of that. I mean, Scott has a lot of vision and ideas that he wants to lay out. This exhibit is one of a few. Some of the other things I really can't share a lot about because they're still in the works and nothing is confirmed. They're just ideas we're kicking around. Somebody did mention that perhaps we could put a car exhibit in there, old Route 66 cars or something to that effect. So the possibilities are pretty endless. There's a lot of space in that building. I want to say 14,000 square feet between all the buildings.
Yeah.
We get the parking lots as well. Our hope is that we get tour buses to come in. And if we set it up right, it'll be a destination for families and children to come in, not just Route 66 travelers, but we hope the Lincoln community and surrounding communities embrace it. If they're in town, we hope they stop by and see it. And I'll tell you, it's the idea that has been presented and the fact that we're moving forward with the blessing of the council has got a lot of people excited. They want to be a part of it. Businesses want to work with us because that's part of our approach here as well, is to, promote our businesses and our community in the process of this.
A major goal in the process of Lincoln taking over its own tourism is to bring more people into the city's local businesses. The mayor notes this is why they would like to include what he calls an economic incubator in the exhibit building.
Yeah, balloons over 66. Well, and that's really why we're looking at part of that building as an economic incubator of sorts, because we haven't had a chamber of commerce in our town for quite some time, and businesses come to town and they don't really know where to go to get all the information that they need to get started up, be successful. Also, people that want to start, it's the idea is that it might be some really good affordable space where people could come in and figure out if they really do want to operate a business. And maybe after a year or so, then we work with them to get them in other space within the community to grow their business. So we're trying to, we got a lot of things going on at one time, but they all tie nicely together. This rail exhibit that we're taking possession of has really exposed some unknown history, not widely known down here in Lincoln, but we believe that it's a great opportunity to teach children about some of our history and people that may not have known about it.
McCoy was instrumental in the statues many have taken notice of in Atlanta. It is innovation and the infusion of unique ideas like that has Mayor Welch excited for McCoy to be joining the city of Lincoln's tourism efforts. News time is 19 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Tuesday. The summer growing season has producers on watch for developing disease pressure for this year's crop. Commercial farm educator at the University of Illinois Extension, Reagan Tibbs, indicates with the heat and humidity of the last several weeks, conditions are ripe for disease pressure to start to present itself.
We're getting to that reproductive stage and definitely getting to that really critical stage. I mean, every point in the growing season is critical, but especially now we're starting to see corn ears develop, soybean pods develop. We're starting to see some disease pressures, especially with our high temperatures and our high humidity the last couple of weeks. That's definitely putting some disease pressures on our. So in soybeans, I recently wrote a couple blog articles about some of the more common diseases we tend to see here in Illinois. One of those that we've actually seen some reports of lately from our researchers over on campus is red crown rot in soybeans. A lot of the diseases I talked about in these two blog posts are fungal diseases. So they generally, the spores will overwinter sometimes in our crop residue from previous seasons, and then will spread through either wind, rain, equipment, some other type of factor. And their favorable conditions, like I said, are these times when it's really hot and really humid. But definitely red crown rot's one of those that I think it can be hard to diagnose because it has some symptoms that are very similar to some other diseases with soybeans. Some of the early symptoms are some yellowish spots that are between the leaf veins. They then develop necrosis, yes, which is when the tissue will actually start to die, but the leaf veins actually remain green. It's one of those interesting types of things. And so definitely red crown rot's one of those that we're starting to see a lot more presence of this year, like I said, especially with our high humidity, especially with our high temperatures.
According to Tibbs, some diseases are difficult to identify because they mirror other diseases. He says the consideration a lot of producers will have to make is whether there is a treatment for these diseases, and is it the right time to apply.
But it also is similar to sudden death syndrome. And I think a lot of producers in this area have heard a lot about sudden death syndrome. And the symptoms actually are pretty similar and actually track pretty closely with each other. And again, caused by a fungus that can overwinter. And so definitely those two diseases we're seeing a lot of pressure of, and definitely causing a lot of stress on yields and a lot of important decisions for farmers to make. Well, the biggest decision is there a fungicide treatment, or is there something we can do to try to prevent the spread of those diseases? And unfortunately, with some of these, at this point in the growing stage, it's a little bit too late to try and treat them. Some of these you have to kind of get ahead of the problem way before the growing season even starts. So, for example, if we have some of our diseases which the spores can overwinter in, it's important to think about tillage and how we handle our cover that we leave after harvest. So whether that's pretty intensive tillage or we try to do something to get rid of that favorable host for those spores to live on going in over winter. And there are some times when even like a treatment on the seeds can be a factor. So if we get a seed treatment that has the right genetics and has the right formulation, that can prevent the spread of the disease, or at least limit the impact the disease has. And like I said, crop genetics, even picking a variety of corn or soybean that can be resistant or have some type of protection against these diseases can also be an important step. And then also fungicide. We're seeing a lot of spray planes going out right now, spray drones, just field sprayers in general. Those foliar fungicides can work, but in some of these diseases, it's a pretty limited response that we see. And so at that point in time, it may not be really effective to apply a foliar fungicide, especially at this late in the growing stage and for diseases that it really doesn't do much again.
Tibbs indicates one of the big things for producers to do going forward is consider the varieties of soybeans they're putting in the ground before the growing season and the genetics of that variety. We'll have more with Tibbs on diseases popping up in corn this growing season in the days ahead on Regional Radio. News time is 23 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Tuesday. A break and more to come on the morning show.
Experience the power of better connection with Connexus Fiber Internet. Connexus delivers ultra-fast, reliable speeds to keep you connected at the speed of life. Whether you're working from home, streaming your favorite shows, or gaming with your friends, Connexus has you covered. Say goodbye to buffering and dropped calls and say hello to fiber fast internet. Ready to upgrade your connection? Sign up today by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Nothing connects us like Connexus.
School is right around the corner. Let us help you get to class in style at Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City. This is Scott Baum. We have a great savings on the entire Chevy lineup, from the economic Trailblazer and Trax to the upscale Silverado or Tahoe. We have you covered. Our used and certified pre-owned cars are getting straight A's also. This school year, see all our inventory online. Chevrolet, together let's drive. BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
News time, 24 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Tuesday. Again, I'm Seth Lawrence with you folks today for this expanded local newscast. A NASCAR fan experience for the Illinois Farm Bureau members next month at the Enjoy Illinois 300 held at Worldwide Technology Raceway in Madison.
So this year we are offering kind of a permanent structure hospitality suite for our members. So that includes a catered buffet meal and a cash bar, amazing views of turn 4 and pit lane and the front stretch. It is covered, so you will be in the shade. With our package, we've also included bleacher tickets as well. So you have 2 different vantage points of the race. And then in addition to those opportunities, we have also included access to the Gateway Garage Experience infield fan zone. So that grants our members access to the pits, to the garages, trophy presentations, driver meet and greets, all sorts of fun activities down there, kind of in the infield of the track. Our package also includes live entertainment with free concerts before and after the race, and free parking is included in that as well.
Illinois Farm Bureau Management Manager Ashley Butke says it's a $400 value at just $200. Contact your local county farm bureau to get tickets for the race. That is Sunday, September 7th. It's part of the NASCAR playoffs. News time, 26 minutes after 7 o'clock. What are some of the trends connected to farmland values and cash rents for farmland as revealed in the USDA annual study? Rod Bain has that answer. News time is 28 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this, here on this Tuesday. Time now for a look at this morning's obituaries. 60-year-old Linda D. Foster Terrell of Bloomington, formerly of Waynesville, passed away at her home Thursday, July 31st, following a 2-year battle with cancer. Private funeral services were held with burial at the McLean Cemetery, for 60-year-old Linda D. Foster Terrell. Memorials can be made to Waynesville United Methodist Church. Final arrangements were entrusted with Queeram Peasley Funeral Home of Atlanta. News time is 29 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Tuesday. Coverage of news today is brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and brought to you by Connexus, providing fiber internet to Clinton. Learn more at DeWittDailyNews.com. As we come up on sports here for this Tuesday morning, a look at Decatur Eisenhower's football program. Dead week for high school sports before the kickoff of the season on Monday, August the 11th. Decatur Eisenhower looking to take a step forward, get a few more wins this football season. We hear from fourth-year coach DeWan Johnson in sports on this Tuesday. Get news anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. The arrest warrants have been signed, and Texas Governor Greg Abbott is ordering fugitive Democrat lawmakers to return home. They left the state denying Republicans a quorum needed to vote on revised congressional maps. America's top law enforcement officer, Attorney General Bondi, ordering an investigation into the origins of the Trump-Russia probe. California's Los Padres National Forest, the scene of one of the state's largest wildfires, having burned more than 72,000 acres and threatening hundreds of homes. Air quality across the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, and parts of the Northeast is suffering because of smoke being generated by Canadian wildfires. In Montana, the hunt goes on for 45-year-old Michael Paul Brown, wanted in the fatal shooting of 4 people at a bar in Anaconda, Montana, last week. This is SRN News.
With SRN Sports, I'm Jason Walker. NCAA deciding not to expand the men's and women's basketball tournaments beyond 68 teams in 2026. Discussions about possibly expanding to 72, maybe even 76 teams for the 2027 tournaments remain ongoing. Philadelphia Eagles standout Saquon Barkley is declining an invitation to join President Trump's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition. He explains that he is simply too busy right now to help out. Former college football coach Derek Dooley announcing his 2026 GOP bid for the U.S. Senate in Georgia. He says he aims to bring Georgia common sense to the Senate. This is SRN Sports. Lots of baseball action last night. We will kick things off in the National League. St. Louis over the LA Dodgers, 3-2. Cincinnati 3, the Cubs 2. Arizona beat San Diego 6-2. Boy, deuce is wild. Pittsburgh beat San Francisco 5-4. And it was Milwaukee 3, Atlanta 1. Over in the American League, Boston defeated Kansas City 8-5. Texas over the Yankees 8-5. Angels knocked off Tampa Bay 5-1. It was Detroit 6, Minnesota 3. And in interleague play last night, 4 games were on tap. Houston 8, Miami 2. Cleveland beat the Mets 7-6. And a couple of wild games, Philadelphia 13, Baltimore 3, Toronto 15, Colorado 1. SRN Sports.
Time now for a look at sports. I'm Seth Lawrence with this report. Bringing excitement to Decatur's South Side is the goal this year for Decatur Eisenhower's football program. Fourth-year coach DeWan Johnson admits football hasn't always been prioritized by its students, but that is starting to change, and it is his belief The program can turn a corner this year thanks to a great summer by his student athletes.
The summer treated me really well. Again, just having the opportunity to spend a full summer with the guys and to really get this group of guys together and ready and committed for the fall 25 season. We worked on a lot of different things. Worked on a lot of becoming a team. Worked a lot about developing skills, and then we went on a bunch of 7-on-7s in the month of July, joining up over at Taylorville and doing some things at Civic Memorial, Bethalto, Illinois, and we also did some things over at Memorial Forsyth and those different kind of things. So we really had a good time with it.
While Eisenhower finished just 1-8 last year, there were a couple of football games the Panthers were right there. Coach Johnson says thanks to this summer, where he had excellent participation from his players, he feels they are developing and ready to hit the ground running when practices begin for the season next week.
It was one of the most important things about having a summer, having a full off season, because you have the opportunity to grow, you have the opportunity to develop. Usually, again, when we're waiting until, that end of July and August to get started, you're basically starting really late. So now you're using the season to actually prepare for the season. And that's kind of one of the things that, we trying to overcome. We're having 4 summers, we're having June and July and, and then also August where you're not having, and also the off season where, again, you're using that time to develop, to, again, get better at the game of football, to become more knowledgeable about the game of football instead of waiting to the end. And then now you're hoping that, okay, we become a better team. We become more of a team. We become more competitive. We become more skilled, in week 6, week 7, in week 8, and, hopefully to finish well in week 9. That you're just hoping and, and praying that, okay, every game we get better.
Right.
So that's why it was so important for us to have a full off season, a full season with everybody coming, everybody being committed, everybody's being developed, everybody's growing, all of the coaches, staying together and, and moving forward with the program, that we can grow before the season and hoping that, okay, now we can become very skilled, very knowledgeable, and we can be prepared for the season as well. So that's one of the things that, again, we took, from, the games that we were close in last year and last fall, I should say. And we, kind of use that to encourage everybody, hey, this is why we have to have full off season, full commitment and participation throughout the off season, throughout the summer, that we will be able to start August 29th against Streeter ready to play football.
The Coach Johnson's Panthers are led by a third-year starting quarterback. He is hopeful some of the experience and speed around him will be the catalyst to winning a few more football games.
This year, we're going to have our quarterback, Gary Henderson, who's going to really stand out. We're going to have another senior, Jerome Mitchell, stand out. We're going to have Marcus Page stand out. We're going to have Caleb Cliff, who's a junior, is going to stand out. Kashif Willis, who's going to stand out as well, who's a junior. We have some really good freshmen coming in, and again, we're still young, but we are, like I said, we have guys that are a lot more committed and wanting to really, again, lift up this side of town, south side of town of football.
The Panthers this season will be focused on playing fast, downhill, taking care of the football, and tackling well. Coach Johnson believes if his team can do those things, they'll have a banner year on Decatur's south side. Eisenhower opens the football season at Streeter. Pinch hitter Yohel Pozo delivered a tie-breaking RBI single with 2 outs in the 9th inning, and the Cardinals hung on for a 3-2 win over the LA Dodgers Monday night. After Wilson Contreras got a leadoff single off new Dodger reliever Brock Stewart, pinch hitter Garrett Hampson eventually scored on a soft single to right by Pozo. The Cardinals' backup catcher celebrated enthusiastically after his second hit in his last 8 games. Sonny Gray yielded a hit over 7 stellar innings for the Cardinals. 2 relievers combined on a perilous 3-hitter for St. Louis. Riley O'Brien earned his first career victory at 30 years old, despite blowing a lead in the 8th inning. JoJo Romero then got his second save despite giving up a leadoff single to Shohei Ohtani, retiring Max Muncy on a line drive to right with 2 outs for the final out. Gray had an entertaining duel with Tyler Glasnow, who gave up 3 hits in 7 innings of 1-run ball for L.A. Ivan Herrera hit a 2-out homer in the 8th for St. Louis. Teoscar Hernandez doubled and scored the tying run on 2 groundouts in the bottom half for L.A. Mason Wynn ended a 32-game homer drought in the Cardinals' 3rd victory in 9 games. Freddie Freeman homered for the West-leading Dodgers, who fell to 7-9 since the All-Star break, with another tepid offensive performance in their return from a mediocre 9-game road trip. After Ohtani's single, Lars Nootbaar made a spectacular diving catch on Mookie Betts' tailing fly to the right field line. Glasnow is winless in 9 starts since March 31st, despite posting a 2.17 ERA since his return last month. He retired 17 of his last 18 batters without a hit. Miles Michaelis pitches for St. Louis opposite Emmett Sheehan tonight. TJ Friedel hit a tie-breaking RBI single in the 7th, and the Reds held off the Cubs for a 3-2 win Monday night. Tyler Stevenson homered for Cincinnati. Ellie De La Cruz had an RBI double. The 59 and 54 Reds had dropped 4 of 6. Dansby Swanson hit his 17th homer for the Cubs, who fell 3 games behind Central leading Milwaukee. With 2 outs and runners on the corners in the 7th, Friedel drove in Jake Fraley with a blooper to left center field against Caleb Teelbar. Ryan Brazier got the loss. The Cubs threatened in the bottom half, advancing Willie Castro to third with 2 down. Swanson then hit a chopper to third and was ruled safe. The Reds challenged, and the call was overturned when a replay review showed Swanson missed the bag initially as he crossed first base. The Cubs had won 3 of 4. Zach Littell makes his Cincinnati debut tonight. Left-hander Shota Imanaga starts for Chicago. Littell was acquired in a trade with Tampa last week. Get sports anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com.
This is staff meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki with your regional radio forecast. Chance of thunderstorms today, otherwise sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Highs level off around 83. Winds out of the east